All right, all right, all right. Okay. This should work fine. Okay. All praises be to the Most High. We are back. Thank you for your patience. I apologize for the quick delay, but don't worry about it. We're about to jump right back in. We're going right in. All right. This should work fine for everyone here now. Don't worry about it. We're good. Okay. Okay. Jumping right back in. I'm Elder Ricard of the Gathering of Christ Church, jumping right back in. Let's go into it. The political saga against the children of Israel begins. Now, last Wednesday, we went into the Josephus, the book of the Josephus, to actually discuss what's going on politically in our earth today, to show you that there's nothing new under the sun, and the same conspiracy to come against God's people that happened in 70 AD by the hand of the Roman Empire is happening again, politically and otherwise. We gave an example of Nero burning a few shops and a few stores on within a few city blocks of Rome, blaming it on the black Jews. And as a pretext of that, the Republic came against Jerusalem. Speaking of the Roman Empire. Now we stand today. We stand today in which those who claim to be the children of Israel are now being demonized within the media, and that's a given. We are to expect that. But you cannot ignore the similarities between what's going on now and what happened before the destruction of our forefathers in Jerusalem. So, we've been talking about this for years. Let's go into this history. Let's go into this Bible. And let's also examine the news concerning what's happening today as a pretext, as a point to actually prepare for what comes next. This is a very, very, very important broadcast. And after this, I'll be open to answer questions, okay? Let me dive right in. The political saga against the children of Israel begins. I'm going to start in our Apocrypha, the Apocrypha. Now, I so happen to have a Bible with the Apocrypha included, a 1611 version, a Cambridge 1611. Diving right in, I'm going to go to Wisdom of Solomon, the second chapter. And I need you all to follow with me here. Wisdom of Solomon 2 reads this. For the ungodly said, reasoning amongst themselves, but not aright. Our life is short and tedious, and in the death of a man there's no remedy. Neither was there any man known to have returned from the grave. Now, but when you go down a few verses, it gives you the plans or the mindset of the ungodly in his view and plan for us. Because the ungodly promotes atheistic, satanic, non-belief ideologies against the God of the Bible. So it would be natural, brothers and sisters, for those same ungodly people to conspire or to plan against the people of the Bible. So what are their plans for us right now? And how can we now follow them politically like our forefathers did during the time right before the fall of the Roman Empire? This is what the ungodly is saying, brothers and sisters. Let me read this. I'm in the 10th verse. Wisdom of Solomon 2:10. Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the aged. Let our strength be the law of justice. Let our strength be the law of justice. For that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. They're weak. They're at their weakest point. They're without hope. Now it's time to drop the foot on them. They're not worth anything. We've totally eradicated and decimated this people. Now, there's no better time than now to come against them. That's the plans of the ungodly, folks. They weakened us by what? Promoting immorality and lawlessness within our communities. To weaken us. Why? By sinning, by disobeying the laws of God, by renouncing the Bible altogether. Our people, we have lost our hedge. The God of Israel have taken his hedge off of our people, and now the enemy is in full-fledged war zone, decimating us inwardly. And it says here, let us oppress the poor righteous man, and let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the aged. Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. So the ungodly believe that God's people are worth nothing. Now you must understand that and know their proper, you have to know their mindset properly according to God, folks, or you'll fall for their witchcraft. You'll fall for their liberalism or their psychology when they come into you and smile and say, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help your children, or whatever the case is. You must know their overall view of you. Not in some way of retaliating or coming against these people physically, but understanding their devices and knowing that it's time to come back under that hedge before they pounce and destroy us altogether, like they did in 70 AD. And that's what I'm about to discuss with you. How will they do this according to the Most High? The Most High have given us their conspiracy, because a lot of us aren't politically savvy. We're not up in town meetings and Congress meetings and what you would call city council meetings on a daily basis, listening to all the legislation that's now being put in place to utterly crush us. We have no time for that. So the Most High, through his word, is giving us an insight to their private councils, how they really think against us. It says here, Wisdom of Solomon 2:11. Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Therefore, let us lie in wait for the unrighteous, because he is not for our return. And he is clean, contrary to our doings. He upbraideth us with our offending the law. That means they're talking against us, claiming that we're breaking Moses' law. And objective to our infamy, the transgressions of our education. Yes, the true children of God are telling them to their face that their whole educational system is a farce. It's a lie. Okay? How can you charge people hard-earned finances in a school or a place of education and not teach of the God who made all that exists? A matter of fact, you'll charge people to teach against God. So they're angry for those who claim to be Israel today, who are actually taking back their national identity. They're angry at those who would point to this system as what exactly it is, a satanic Babylonian system. So since it's being revealed now and we're no longer looking to participate in it like they would like, here's their plan. Therefore, let us lie in wait for the righteous, because he is not for our turn, and he is clean contrary to our doings. He upbraideth us with our offending the law, and objective to our infamy, the transgressions of our education. He professeth to have the knowledge of God. They're using that Bible. See? Listen to this. And he called himself the child of the Lord. We're going to use the law against these Israelites, or these people who are claiming to be Israelites, because they are calling themselves the children of Israel. The gig is up. They know now. So we must use the law against them. Do you see this, folks? Now do y'all clearly see why they don't want you reading this Bible? Why even though over and over again, we're out there publicly telling people there's no such thing as a black Israelite. This is not like the Black Panthers or some group you join. But yet they'll outright ignore it and try to paint a picture of some groups getting together against government or against some particular people. That is a conspiracy, folks. You want to know the example of a conspiracy? When some people come up and say, listen, you can't call me a black Israelite. The Bible doesn't call us black Israelites. We're the people according to prophecy. We're the same people that were enslaved in Egypt. That's all. We're the bloodline people. We're the same people. That's it. There's no such crap as no black Israelite, but they keep regurgitating that, being the sorcerers they are, to brand that in the minds of people that it's some fringe group that just, came from out of nowhere against white people. Okay, which is disingenuous and evil at its core. Why? Because there's no race of people out there who all have one monolithic thought or belief on something. All white people aren't the KKK. Okay. All Chinese people aren't karate experts. Okay. So they would have you believe that if you trace your line to the children of Israel according to prophecy and according to bloodline, history, and culture, that you're with some particular racist faction against government. See, that's what they're framing. Now, there's nothing we can do about their political advances. They're going to do what they did in 70 AD. But those who are under Christ understands this and prepare according to the word. Christ told the disciples, listen, I'm giving you the doctrine that will sustain our people through the generations. When you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, flee into the wilderness. Now, how were they able to flee into the wilderness? There were churches prepared in those areas that the disciples have already established. And I'm going to go there. So we were able to receive refuge through teaching the gospel. See? And those who didn't listen and thought that these liberal Romans were for their turn, and who didn't understand these prophecies and the conspiracy against us, were caught up. So Christ have given us through the Spirit the understanding to go out and make things plain for our people. Because why? Jacob seeketh a sign. Ecclesiastes tell us that the first chapter tell us that which has been shall be. There's nothing new under the sun. If you want to know what's going to happen, study history. So countless videos, a lot of them that have been taken down on purpose. Okay? Serious information that dovetails or highlights everything that's going on right now were in prior videos we did with channels that were taken down. Every other year they would take down our channel. We don't hate. We don't call white people names. We teach all nations. We believe in the spirit of love and equity and justice for all people. Okay? We're very guarded on how we relay God's message, understanding that his word is precious. But yet, they have taken down our videos time and time and time again. Because it was the Most High giving us insight on their plans, and they didn't want people to know that the truth was out there. Everything we were talking about for the last decade, folks, is upon us. It's upon us. That's why we've been ramping up and telling brothers and sisters, hey, go to the page, hit the bell, do whatever you got to do as long as we're going to have this. But I don't know how long we're going to have this. Hit the bell, stay in the know, join a church in your proximity so that when you get this information, you'll have a plan for you and your family according to the gospel. The same plan that the disciples were given, those that were following the word, is the same plan that this church has adopted. Okay? To stay under the hedge of the Most High and to prepare for the inevitable. What's the inevitable? You might ask. What is the inevitable? Someone just gave me a great idea. Someone asked me, can I make CDs of these lessons or DVDs and make sure we put it down and burn it and so that you can play it in your cars and all that? Absolutely. If I can make a CD for some music, I can definitely get these departments together and get this thing out where you're playing it worldwide, because this is way more important than a music CD. So yes, I'm going to get right on that. Thank you. Here we go. Around 64 AD, Nero. And you know, Nero was a serious opioid. He would be considered like one of these crack guys out here today. He was on drugs hardcore, to a degree in which he was deemed what they would call today clinically insane. Okay. Nero had a plan. to overtake Jerusalem. Now, since Julius Caesar, since the time of Julius Caesar, they have conspired against the children of Israel. Even during the time of Julius Caesar, he was able to link into the Idumean Edomite family, the Idumeans, which he's a part of also, but from a different family. You had Julius Caesar, who's from the children of Zepho, and you got the Idumeans, who are from the children directly from also the children of what you would call Amalek, who became the Idumeans. You had Julius Caesar, who conspired with Antipater and that family of Edomites, along with Pompey, a top political figure at that time, to begin to infiltrate Jerusalem and put in convert Edomite Idumean Jews in position to become the Sanhedrin, or the governing body over Jerusalem during the time right after Julius Caesar, where they began to make the rule of thumb, or what you would call the rule of law for Jerusalem, because we've always as a people had a separate law. So they were able to infiltrate by putting the convert Idumeans, who were converted during the time of Hyrcanus, into position of the Sanhedrin to now come down on our people. And that's why when Christ came on the scene, folks, the Pharisees and scribes were stringent. They were like tyrants on us. Why? Because the laws they were putting in place weren't how you're supposed to deal with the children of Israel. These were the Idumean infiltrators coming down hard on us and using our leaders as proxies as today. And that's why Christ says, let me read this, what Christ says in Revelations 2:9 real quick, because I have to paint a picture. It's all coming to me. I have things all mapped out, but as it comes to me, I'm going to relay it to you. That's why Christ said this in Revelation. That's why Christ says in Revelations 2:9, and you've heard it before, but probably not in this context. Listen. I know thy works, 2:9, I know thy works, and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I also know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So he's saying that we must look out for those who claim to be from the children of Israel, but are not, but really they're bringing Satan's agenda or ideology on the earth under a new assumed identity. But that's not the point I wanted to highlight. Maybe this is why those that are under certain religions hate Christ. How can you claim to be from a great nation and not have respect of the greatest man, Christ, or whom you call Jesus, who's from that nation? The point I wanted to highlight out of this is Christ's words here, where it says, fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. But be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. So the Most High is showing us through the word that it'll be some people claiming to be Jews who are not, and they would be responsible. They will be behind what? The industrial prison complex. And their full aim and target is to incarcerate God's people, according to the word. These are the Romans. Now, I need y'all to check this out. Going back to Nero. Nero strategically burned 7 what you would call very industrious areas in Rome. Strategically, he burnt certain areas that would affect the monetary, what you would call the sustaining of their monetary economy or their fiscal economy. They burnt strategic areas that would immediately affect the people financially, so to speak. It's like somebody going and hitting a market or hitting someplace, a bank or something like that, strategically all at once, and it would affect the normalcy of that particular community. Well, Nero did that and blamed on our people in 64 AD. So it led to, after his regime, Vespasian and Titus coming up against our people and destroying us in Jerusalem. That was the last we would see of our true homeland. Okay. Africa isn't the center hub of our homeland. Africa is just an extension on the outside of it. Africa would become the Middle Passage. We didn't begin there, and we wasn't as a people going to end there. It's the Middle Passage. It's the Middle Passage between our freedom, our last freedom we held as a people in Jerusalem, and our captivity we are now experiencing. It's the Middle Passage. It's the wilderness. We're just out there with no homeland. We have lost Eden. We have lost Eden. From that soil is where God took the matter that would make man and breathed into him a living soul. Jerusalem. When he says he made a place for man, or he took man out of the dust of the ground eastward in Eden. That's Jerusalem, folks. That's our motherland. Whoever controls that region controls the world, because the dominion, man came out of it. Hence, the Middle Eastern wars. Every empire was fighting for that landmass, knowing its spiritual significance. Whoever ruled that land rules the world. So they'll have us jockeying over Africa all day. Not to say that Africa doesn't have rich resources, because the Most High made it that way, because it's an extension on the outside of Eden. But Jerusalem is the mother of us all. So Esau was angry because that land, he thought that land would be his land. Him being the firstborn, he thought that the promises of Abraham would come upon him and his children. But he sold his birthright. He lost his power. And our father Isaac told him, one day you're going to serve your brother Jacob. But when that yoke is broken off of you, you will rule with blood and with the sword. So by the time Vespasian and Titus came on the scene, being the sons of Isaac, Edomites, this was their opportunity to destroy Jerusalem altogether and assume the power lost through our father Isaac giving us, Jacob, the blessing. 70 AD was their perfect opportunity, but they first had to do what? Sway public sentiment against the children of Israel through false flag promotion. So after they burned the blocks and blamed it on us, it cost the Romans so much money that the Roman citizens needed to now stand up, aligned against God's people politically, and say, we need to do something about those Jews in Jerusalem. We need to do something about those Israelites. How can they come into Rome and disturb our markets? How can they come into our cities and disturb our way of life? And that rallied all of the people in Rome against us. It rallied all of them against us. So here it is, mainstream media will use the same tactics. There's nothing new under the sun. Man. Folks, I seen some of these news reports and it gave me chills, folks. What I'm about to relay to you. I woke up in the morning. The sun wasn't even up yet, folks. Sun wasn't even up, and it all came to me. And I'm like, you know what? How can we teach this as a sign to let brothers and sisters know in this earth the times we're in? And to get under this hedge and prepare as soon as possible. How can we quantify this to a degree in which this will resonate to one of the lowest degree? Even if someone don't even know how to read or understand the Bible at all, how can our people understand the threat we're under right now? And come back to you, Lord. Because it doesn't matter what your shortcomings are. If you can see and begin to prepare by following God's law, he'll fill in all that other stuff missing. He'll do it for you. But it's getting our people to see first. And I'm like, you know what? If they can't see what we're about to show you right now, based on the conspiracy of the ungodly written up in Wisdom and Solomon, if they can't see the way we're going to show this today, blessed are the eyes that can see and the ears that can hear. I'll just put it that way. Blessed are your eyes that you can see and your ears that you can hear. Because if you don't understand after what we're about to bring forth, hey, what can I do about the spiritually deaf or blind? Especially if one refuses to see or don't want to hear or would walk with some level of cognitive dissonance and walk in the spirit of ignorance is bliss. Folks, I'm about to show you what they're saying in Congress right now. Now, I thank the Most High that this is actually government footage, which is what? It's open for public domain, and I don't have to worry about it. I did the research. C-SPAN is a public domain entity that you can actually utilize because it's public information that you're supposed to know about anyway. You're supposed to be studying what they're planning against us. But not too many of us see C-SPAN. I understand it. It's not that entertaining. But I tell you what, this is where your life changes. This is where the plans against you begin. Okay. You see all of your neighborhoods have been co-op where you can't even afford to live in your area no more. Well, this is where it happened. Right up under your nose. Okay. So if you're in here, hit the like button and trend everyone in because I'm about to go in. Okay. We are about to go in too, folks. You got it. The political saga against the children of Israel begins. And folks, what I'm about to show you is going to blow you away. 2 minutes. Hold tight. The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out here anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. Okay, jumping right in. The first example I'll give you. Let's go in now. Let's jump in now. Let's jump right in. I mentioned to you, brothers and sisters, that the first thing they had to do, the Roman Empire, because don't forget, our people in Jerusalem, be it predominantly Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, we had great relations with our Roman neighbors. There was really no conflict, socially or otherwise, against them because we understood that they were pagans. They were worshiping Canaanite gods and all that. And we kept our worships entirely separate from theirs. But we still had some level of civility amongst the Roman Empire. I mean, you didn't have Christ and the disciples walking around looking at the Romans saying, you're the devil that the Bible speaks of. The Most High is going to enslave you. You this, that, and the other. No. It's not that we had respect for their gods. We understood that we were the children of Israel and we weren't to deal with any level of polytheism or the worship of lesser gods, like the Roman Catholics and others. So Paul and the disciples after Christ's death began to convert Gentiles out of that ideology, to have them serve the God who made the gods they serve. You understand? So there was some level of civility. In order for Paul to go into a city and teach Gentiles and to convert Gentiles, there must have been some level of civility between them and us, even though we had different races, different ideologies, and different beliefs. We were walking in some level of cohesion, at least as citizens. It's just that we didn't deal with Saturnalia. We didn't deal with Sunday worship. That was for pagans. So we didn't disturb what they were doing, and they didn't disturb what we were doing. We were following our law, statutes, and commandments. We knew to follow the Passover, the Sabbath, so on and so forth. So the Romans really didn't have the political, what you would call agreement amongst the citizens to come against us because, we were civil neighbors with the Romans. So they had to make a pretext by burning some markets and all that. Now, after they burned the markets in the cities, they blamed it on the Jews. And as a pretext, armies in the military and the police and all that, that's what we would call them today, ramped up their presence in our community. After that, a little after that, they moved in all together and destroyed Jerusalem. Now, I need you all to check this out because this is where it begins. This is where the conspiracy of Nero begins. Now, if you remember, A few weeks ago, brothers and sisters, there was a report of this guy. The New York Post. The stabbing. Let me let that settle in real quick. Do y'all remember the stabbing that happened in the synagogue a few weeks ago? And they were promoting this everywhere as a black man that was radicalized by Israelites. They said he destroyed. They had this and they had another. They said he stabbed in the synagogues. Y'all remember that? For those who are following us, let me look at the chat. Y'all remember that? You remember that, right? Now, this story came after they claimed that some people went into a market, a black guy and a black girl, Bonnie and Clyde style, and claimed they went through to try to chase a man out of the synagogue or whatever the case is, right? Remember that? And they say that these two end up getting killed in crossfire and that they were radicalized online or from Israelites. Remember that? Now, why am I going to this first? Because already the New York Post and the FBI made a report and said there was no connection between that brother and sister that tried to rob that market and Israelites. But yet you don't see that on the news anywhere. The FBI already came out and said there's no connection. Now, I need y'all to check this out because they would make you think that this guy was radicalized through learning that he was an Israelite. But, and folks, listen to this. Listen to me. They're putting it out here right now where this guy was radicalized, and it wasn't amongst Israelites. Check this out. Muncie stabbing suspect Grafton Thomas was a Shabbos goy growing up. He was what? A Shabbos goy growing up. Now, our people don't know what a Shabbos goy is, do you? How many of you out there know what a Shabbos goy is? I'm about to read the whole thing for you. New York Post. Now, they made us believe for weeks that Israelites are bringing some level of anti-Semitism, and they use this story. They use this story to ramp up police presence in Brooklyn against Israelites. Look, our people don't know. And I'm glad I'm hearing, no, I have no idea what a Shabbos goy is. And I'm glad I'm hearing this. Because in our communities, we have no idea what a Shabbos goy is. In our communities. So if he grew up as a Shabbos goy, how can you claim that he was radicalized through Israelites? Now I'm going to read more of this story, folks. Okay. First of all, folks, goy is like is a derogatory term that's used through the people of Judaism against non-Jews. Goyim, listen to this, Goyim means heathen or cattle. So they call non-Jews in their circles as an emphasis of something derogatory. Okay? Against those who are not like them. They call them cattle. Goyim. Trained cattle. Now, a Shabbos goy, he's the guy that does all the things being hired in a synagogue or at a store. He does all the things that Jews are forbidden to do on the Sabbath. So, being that Jews cannot work on the Sabbath, this young boy was hired in the synagogue and all that to work and do the stuff that they can't do on the Sabbath so that they couldn't profane the Sabbath. So they made him work because they couldn't. Now, here's my question. What did they do to this young boy growing up that led him in? Because he knew exactly what synagogue to go to. He knew where they were, where they would be. What did they do to this young black boy that led to this? Because he didn't grow up an Israelite. He grew up being trained under them. What did they do to this guy? What did they do to him, brothers and sisters? Let's read the story. Monsey stabbing suspect Grafton Thomas was a Shabbos goer growing up. The man accused of using a machete to hack 5 Orthodox Jews at a Hanukkah party had Jewish friends while growing up and even did Sabbath chores for them, his mom told the Post on Wednesday. That's right. His mother is dropping the tea on this. His mother. She's saying, well, listen, this has nothing to do with Israelites. He grew up under Jewish people. Grafton Thomas, 37, was born in a Jewish neighborhood in Crown Heights, so he wasn't radicalized by Israelites. Was born in a Jewish neighborhood in Crown Heights, Kim Thomas said in her first public statement since her son's arrest in the Saturday night bloodbath in Monsey. And let me tell you this. This is nothing to be celebrated, someone being stabbed, okay? It shouldn't have happened at all. People shouldn't harm other people, regardless of who they are and what you might think of them. But it's deep how the mainstream media is painting this as some type of Israelite radicalization without giving the true understanding of what happened to this boy. It's a shame because maybe there's other black boys, shamas, goys, that are being messed around like this young man was. Huh? Now, his mother, Kim, 55, said her son would help one Jewish family observe the Sabbath by performing tasks prohibited by their religious beliefs. Grafton grew up. It says Grafton grew up going there on Friday afternoon to turn off the lights for them, she said. So what were they doing to this young boy? That practice is commonly known as serving as a Shabbos goy, a non-Jew who perform Sabbath tasks. Before the arrest, Kim said Grafton was always welcomed warmly whenever he returned to Brooklyn from their home in upstate Greenwood Lake. If he goes down there, anyone that sees him on the block in the neighborhood hugs him, welcomes him, she said. Several longtime Jewish residents of the block where Grafton formerly lived told the Post they didn't remember him as a neighbor. Check that out. They say they didn't remember him. And the mother saying they all know him down that area. Now, since the story come out, they want to deny him. Kim Thomas, a nurse who disputed allegations by federal authorities that a swastika and reference of Adolf Hitler and Nazi culture found in her son's journals were evidence of anti-Semitic sentiments. Instead, she said, listen to this. Instead, she said, His writings are symptoms of his mental illness. So while growing up as a Shabbos goy, this young boy developed mental illness, mental health issues around them, not around Israelites, which his lawyers have said include schizophrenia. Sometimes children who are abused develop another personality to escape to hide their abuse. So if something happened to them as a child, sometimes they develop alternate personalities to hide that sully individual in them that's being abused, to cover up. Listen to this. Have said includes schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So something happened where this young man became mentally ill hanging out at the synagogues and in their communities. You see how they flipped that story, folks? You see how they turned that into he must have been radicalized online, when really they're hiding the fact that something happened to this little boy in their community that led to him lashing out and end up stabbing and going off. Maybe when he got old enough to seek revenge on people who was messing with his mind or whatever, or I don't know. Let's go back. Because mama is dropping the T on this. And it says right here, he writes all over the paper. He circled letters or words like a typical schizophrenic mind, she said. Kim said her son was being held under suicide watch at the Orange County Jail, where she visited him Tuesday. I said, Mommy loves you. I'm going to try to do everything to help. And he said, we thank you. I said, who's we? Kim said, to this day, he has not received medical attention. What's this? What's this, folks? What is this? It seems that whoever did something to this young boy, whoever they are above the law. Whoever they are, whatever mind control, whatever. Let me tell you, he wasn't just turning off the lights in their community, folks. That's what they put in the news. They know it's a lot of there's some very bad, dark. That's a better word. There's some dark stuff going on in some of these closed communities that I don't think none of our people are safe hanging out around there, cutting off the lights. So I'm sure there's a lot of layers to this particular story, but I wanted to put that out there because till this day, they'll use the ADL and others will use this story to paint a negative light against Israelites when Israelites had nothing to do with this. The only similarity between this brother and Israelites is the fact that he's black. So is this their sideways, weird way of saying they know that the true Israelites are black? I don't know. But maybe it fitted a political narrative for what we are about to show you. Right? So now we understand that they create stories out of nowhere to demonize those they're focusing on, like they did in 70 AD. They'll create political stories like it tells us in the book of the Wisdom of Solomon. They would create these stories and then use the law against the poor, righteous man. They jacked this young boy up, messed up his family, and now say, well, since we got power over media, we'll use this story, even though it has nothing to do with us and we done screwed this kid up. We'll use it and say the Israelites did it. How about that? The Israelites did all that to him, made him schizophrenic, messed him up as a young child. And we can promote this with no recourse. Why? Because we control the narrative here. And what? They're feeble. They can't do nothing about it anyway. We done jacked up their people and we blamed it on their people. Only to blame it on their people. Hold up. Listen to this. Jack Owl says, Elder, it's deeper than you know. I'm from out there. And you know what, folks? I believe it's deeper than I know. I believe that. That's why I wouldn't want to hang out in their communities like that. They deal with a lot of dark magic and sorcery and all that. They see some unbeknownst young black child walking around. No telling what they're thinking according to their religious beliefs. I've went into the research on what they believe in the Talmud and the Babylonian rituals that they talk about there and the God they worship, the Canaanite God and all that. You don't want to be some fresh Israelite blood walking up and down in their communities, folks. You better off in a drug-infested, crack-infested area. Then those houses look all nice and all that. But there's a lot of dark evil going on in some of those communities, folks. Someone says, I wonder why as a child his mother let him go there. And you run into that, right? That same question. But you have to think about this, folks. You have to think about this. And I grew up, my mother and my family didn't have much. And in order for you to actually make some money or whatever the case, sometimes you go into these communities, you understand? You go into these communities, you may wash clothes for them or clean up for them or whatever and come back. Or you look at it and see this great, nice neighborhood and think that, well, listen, at least my son is doing something constructive. Maybe he's in a better area. And while I'm working, I don't have to worry about him getting shot, being initiated into, you know what I'm saying? That's how our women think. Our women are fear driven to a degree in which we say, well, let's put my child in a better environment. If you put him in an environment, there's doctors, lawyers, you understand, there's surgeons. There's a lot of influential people there. And my son can rub elbows with them and their children. When he grow up, maybe they'll put him in position for a better life than here. So I'm sure she didn't think that, that these people would totally abuse her son and pray demons in him. She haven't studied, or she don't know what the Talmud is. The same way when I asked the question initially, did you know what a Shabbos Goy is? She had no idea. So it's to a degree in which our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We can't blame her. She thought that she was putting her child in a better position for the future. That's all. But the reality is, you had to read what Christ talks concerning them. You can't have your children just walking around in their neighborhoods like that. I mean, let me tell you, folks, this thing, like the brother said earlier on here, this thing is more deeper than most could think. But I digress. At this point, it doesn't matter whether or not we know the truth concerning these stories. They don't care. They'll take any story and tie it to an Israelite if that's the agenda, just like in 70 AD. What matters right now is what I'm about to show you. C-SPAN. What I'm about to show you here. The laws that will now be enforced because of it.
Highlight the epidemic of anti-Jewish hatred taking place in New York City and across the country. Since December 23rd, there have been over a dozen attacks on Jews across New York City. This after a terror attack in Jersey City that claimed 3 innocent lives and a horrific terrorist attack in Muncie, New York. This city where Jews...
Now you notice he referenced Muncie, New York as if it was an anti-Semitic attack, and at first they used this story to say that he was radicalized by Israelites. Listen to it again. Look at where we are, folks. This is Congress. The Senate and Congress are talking about, are shaping laws right now like Nero did in 70 AD, right up under our nose with false stories.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the epidemic of anti-Jewish hatred taking place in New York City and across the country. Since December 23rd, there have been over a dozen attacks on Jews across New York City. This after a terror attack in Jersey City that claimed 3 innocent lives and a horrific terrorist attack in Muncie, New York. This city where Jews have come for 366 years to freely practice their religion. Enough is enough. Tweets and words of support are not enough at a time of crisis like this. We must have action. It is for that reason that on January 15th, the Homeland Subcommittee that I chair will hold a hearing on the rise of anti-Semitism. We've got to explore increased funding for mosques and synagogues and churches.
More money for them on these stories they have created. Now, folks, I did some research this morning on him, and I seen him speaking on another committee. And while he was speaking on this same topic, he had a Kabbalah bracelet on. You can see a little tied knitted Kabbalah bracelet. See, this is how you can identify. See, they know that certain people understand their religion, can identify when they are doing code messages and sorcery from political positions. So you have to look at their wrist. If they have a little knitted thing tied around their arm, they're telling all that's in the know that he's a Kabbalist.
Tweets and words of support are not enough at a time of crisis like this. We must have action. It is for that reason that on January 15th, the Homeland Subcommittee that I chair will hold a hearing on the rise of anti-Semitism. We've got to explore increased funding for mosques and synagogues and churches, increased focus on a domestic terrorism charge, and increased focus on the rise of a neo-Nazi movement both nationally and globally. Once again, tweets, thoughts, and prayers are not enough right now. We need action. Thank you. I yield back.
Now, you know what's deep about this? When something happens to anyone, it's a bad thing, and no one wants that. But usually there's some action for any event that happens amongst prayer is not enough for them. When our people get shot, when we get killed, maimed, when someone come into a building and kill us up, the news say, and all they say, our hearts and prayer goes out to the families who have suffered. Where do you get all this at? Financial fortitude, a political structure internationally to try to charge or come against those who are anti-Semitic, whatever the case is. Where do you get all this from? with thoughts and prayer is not enough. That don't work for us. That's all we get is thoughts and prayers. But I digress. I mean, this is their world, folks. So what do you expect? Equality? Check this out. Representative David Kustoff. Now, we don't have any representatives, folks. They do. Listen to this.
Mr. Speaker, on December 28th, the Jewish community in New York gathered together to celebrate Hanukkah. That celebration was cut short due to a vile anti-Semitic attack, leaving 5 people wounded and an entire nation in shock.
And an entire nation in shock. He's talking about what happened in Muncie with that brother who was a Shabbos goy, hired by them since he was a young man. He was raised in that community to a degree in which it blew his mind, made him schizophrenic. I don't know what they did to that boy, to a degree in which he will grow old and just lash out and begin to stab people. This didn't happen amongst us, folks. This happened amongst them. But check out his acting skills, in which he make you believe some rogue black guy rolled up into a synagogue and began to do something. And he's speaking at the Senate with this stuff, folks. So the question is, what laws are now being drafted against you?
Mr. Speaker, on December 28th, the Jewish community in New York gathered together to celebrate Hanukkah. That celebration was cut short due to a vile anti-Semitic attack, leaving 5 people wounded and an entire nation in shock. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, and it's important that younger generations understand where this hate stems from and why we need to combat it. House Resolution 782 does just that. This important resolution...
Hold up. There's a resolution that's being signed and passed right up under our noses because of what I've just showed you. This Shabbos goy, who they call cattle, was raised in their community, was radicalized in their community, and eventually, there was some blowback. Okay? But through that blowback, there's a resolution that's not going to affect their community negatively.
Generations understand where this hate stems from and why we need to combat it. House Resolution 782 does just that.
House Resolution 782. Go look on the government website for resolutions and look at Resolution 782. A matter of fact, I'm going to download it and talk about this resolution this coming Wednesday. A matter of fact, even before, I'm going to talk about this in the academy tomorrow. I'm going to pull up that resolution and I'm going to read that resolution tomorrow in the academy. That's what I'm going to do.
This important resolution encourages schools to teach the history of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust and calls on law enforcement to bring the perpetrators of these attacks to justice. We must stop these senseless acts of hate, and I encourage my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to support this resolution. I do want to thank my colleagues, Congressman Ted Budd and Lee Zeldin, for their leadership in introducing this vital legislation with me. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
You have to give it to them. They don't waste any time, folks. They're getting it done. They have our people in the communities believing that the biggest threat on earth right now is Israelites. They even have pastors, our pastors in our communities, who don't realize we're really there for them, to try to steer them into the true doctrine of Christ. They even have our pastors believing this and using this as a talking point to try to keep the little members that are left within the black churches or the churches. Yeah, they radicalized. They kill people. They this, they that. They crazy. All that feeding into the propaganda. They're not wasting any time, are they? So, let me read this real quick, because now, based on this resolution, there will be an uptick on military presence. There will be an uptick on police police frequenting within the communities with a mind against Israelites. What you're going to hear now, even on the streets, when there's nothing wrong, you have police coming in causing issues based on their training when it comes to those outside exercising their free speech. That's going to happen. And they'll surround the people where no cameras are looking to make their own narrative and all that. That's going to happen. Folks, that's where we're going. Now, Christ said, let me read what Christ said, because some people might ask, well, when will this happen? Good question, folks. Watch within this election, this so-called election coming in, who from the beginning, Trump ran on his solidarity and backing, his political backing of those of the Jewish state. Okay, that was one of his running points. The majority of his campaign money, he claimed he financed his own campaign. You can't believe that, because AIPAC and others, these same organizations, are the ones that funded and have always been behind Trump, the brand. Now, again, as far as I'm concerned, the president position is ceremonial. Yes, it's powerful, but whoever controls the money controls the positions, any place on earth. Okay, so I'm not going to just look at this like the layman and just point out what Trump is saying or even what this guy is saying. That's why I started off with Wisdom of Solomon, to show you what God is saying concerning this. When they seen our people begin to come back to the knowledge of the truth that we're the children of Israel, that was a sign for them, according to their Kabbalah prophecies, to know that they have to kick in on the next level before the Most High begin to free us. They've been waiting and looking for this. They always knew we were the children of Israel. This is nothing new for them. Every rabbi or everyone that I have ever discussed this topic with never came on and said, well, you're not an Israelite according to the Bible. Not once have I ever heard a rabbi say that. They would come on and say, well, I can accept you, but why can't you accept me? That's what the rabbi said to me in England. I know that, okay, I can accept you as a Jew, but why can't you accept me? This is what, they never denied it, folks. They never denied that we're the children of Israel. But they tried to attack us through ad hominem attacks, sideways attacks, and using sorcery to divert people off of the main topic. Who are the children of Israel? And if they are the children of Israel, what does this mean for the earth? What does this mean for when the Lord tell you through the blessings of Abraham, those that bless these people will be blessed, and those that curse these people shall be cursed? What does this mean for you who have always destroyed the children of God? See, that's the conversation they don't want to have. So the re-education of our people now, our children being taught in the schools, is not what was done to us. It's now talking about what have politically been done in the consciousness of our mind, our modern time, what has been done to them. Because if we are the children of Israel, we don't need no re-education of what happened in Europe some 30, 40 years ago or some 60 years ago. Okay? That's not the re-education that need to be had. The re-education that should be discussed is what's going to happen to us for always destroying the children of God and going beyond the measures the Most High God gave us concerning them. What's going to happen for us cursing them beyond measure? That's the conversation. That should be the re-education. And because our people don't know better, there's no representation out there outside of the elect who's willing to be bold enough and courageous enough to teach this word. There's no voice to bring this conversation on a national or international level because these people won't allow that voice. So, what does this mean for us? Let me read it. This is what it means for us. I'm going into 2nd Ezra real quick. 2nd Ezra in the Apocrypha. What does it mean for us? Because the ungodly man, like I've mentioned earlier, he's going to do what the ungodly does. Okay? He's let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us lie on the righteous man. And then let us use the law against them. They're at their weakest point. They're feeble now. Now let us use the power we have through legislation to crush them as a people altogether. Because the children of Israel are waking up and there's no argument we have against it. So if we need to, if we're going to talk about them, we're going to use these felonious stories to do so. We're not going to discuss whether or not there's any merit to what they're saying. Well, that's not the discussion. And if we're going to discuss Holocaust, how is it that only one particular group in this earth gets to talk about heinous things that have been done to them above other people? The bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I don't see us being re-educated on that. The 99 million slaves who died almost on the way here to the shores of America. Where's the re-education to actually train white people in white schools to understand what we've gone through? Where's that education at? And I'm not talking about no Black History Month, talking about somebody discovered a peanut. I'm talking about the real re-education, because it seems that when there's events, they go into a re-education period to say, well, we have to make sure the children grow up, respecting us as the chosen people. We have to make sure we go into the neighborhoods and make this teaching, this reprogramming on their people that would give us even more glory, because the white Jesus thing ain't working no more. So let's re-educate the children out to believe that we're the chosen people, and that if anything happened bad to us, it's bad for the whole world. Okay? So what is it to do for us now? Right? Now, and let me say this clear though. When you have information concerning who we are, it's not used as a pretext to attack people or to go against people and call them devils and call them whatever, because what? Folks, personally, and I'm going to be straight, I know Jewish people, or I've known Jewish people who are not conspiring under some Kabbalist, Talmudic rule against people. Straight up. So I'm not one who's going to be looking through this with tinted lenses and say, okay, all Jews, all this, all that. Because Christ identified those who would do things against us. Okay, he identified those, and it wasn't one. We have to, like we can't blame them. Like there's no one monolithic idea of who we are. We gotta also, there's no monolithic thought on who any other race is. There's good and bad in everyone, and they can, in every race, and they can repent and come to the right side before our God judged them, just like all of us. So I'm going to put this out there. Me personally, understanding this Bible and understanding the mission that Christ has for us, it don't even allow me to have any type of negative vitriol against any personal race. Just doesn't. Okay? I believe just like Christ, you shine light on the darkness. You bring truth to light. And truth will work it all by itself. This is nothing personal for me. This is the word of God. Judgment belongs to the Almighty. Judgment belongs to him. What we have to do is shine a light and tell the truth so that our people can begin to awaken out of their comatose state and prepare according to the Almighty, because they're not doing what they're doing now with these stories. This isn't the first time they've done something like this. They've done it since 70 AD. Even before that, they've always done this. The only difference is, through the advent of the internet, more of us are waking up to their evil conspiracies against us. So again, it's not all of them, but it's enough of them in power to execute Satan's will against us. See? So I try not to just look at certain communities or whatever the case is, because I understand their daddy is the real problem. Their daddy. And truth destroys their daddy. The God of the tree of good and evil. The serpent. So what does this mean for us? Right? Let me read this in the Apocrypha, and then I digress and I'll answer a few questions. Second Esdras 16 and 35 reads, let me start at Second Esdras 15. I'm going to end it in 16. Second Esdras 15 and 15. Matter of fact, let me start at the first verse. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people. See, that's what we have to do, right? Speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in your mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. This is why all other religions and ideologies and heathenistic traditions and cultures speak against this Bible. This is why. Because it's true. It shines a light on their dark worships. 3, fear not the imaginations against thee. So yes, they're planning this resolution 782. What do our God say? Fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not their incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Thus saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. And therefore, saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them, and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. So the 99 million that died on the way here, they packed us like sardines on boats to a degree in which sores and disease would crop up amongst us. They would tie pregnant women down with the baby dead in her, wouldn't hardly give us food or water. Those cries are still going up to the Most High. See, we're subjected to our time and space. But the Most High made time, and those cries throughout that whole timeline continue to go up. And now it's full. So while they're planning evil against us, the Most High is planning something greater against them and their God. See? And that's why our focus shouldn't be lashing out or thinking what you can do personally or say against them. We should use our words in the power of a word, because the earth and the heavens came into existence through the word, and words are powerful. So we should use those words not to embolden their campaign against us, but to warn our people and prepare, and let God deal with the vengeance. It says, and therefore saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them, and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. To behold my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues. Now we know America is the modern day Egypt. As before, and will destroy all the land thereof. And see, and that's why a lot of diseases, a lot of sicknesses and all that is cropping up in this land. People are sick because the Most High has allowed the plagues to begin to overtake mankind. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, and their seed shall fall through the blasting of hell, and with a fearful constellation. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein! For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another people, and swords in their hands. Iran. For there shall be sedition amongst men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. Real ID, where your ID only works for your particular city. And if you don't have real ID or a passport, when the destruction hits, you will be relegated to the confines or the parameters of your neighborhood. Masada, the same that happened in 70 AD for those who didn't take heed to Christ's prophecies. They were stuck. Real ID, passed under who? You got it. This current administration. 17. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and the great tribulation. We're going into it. Behold, saith the Almighty, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, from the east, and Labanus, and to turn themselves one against another, and to repay the things that have been done to them. So these wars are culminating as payback for what they have done against us. Because they all need the resources in that region. That region is the valley of Jehoshaphat, and all the armies that conspired at Idumea to keep the name of Israel from no more being in our remembrance. All the nation's armies who conspired against us are there. So that's why I don't have to come down on one group or this group, because guess what? The powers that be, the Roman Empire, those that are over jewelry today, they could not have done what they did without help from all the Gentile nations. Okay? They conspired together. So it's too much to look at every individual and say, you did this, you did this, you did this. And I'm like, well, no, that's not where the Most High want our focus at right now. He's sending plagues, destruction on this earth. And these plagues are for the Gentiles who have always destroyed us. It's our sins that will allow us to get caught up in their judgment. So we're not to fear. We're to come under the hedge of the Most High in total protection and follow Christ's direction out of this. Because the plagues and the destruction is an amendment for what they've done to us. They're drafting their laws, but the Most High have already drafted his judgment against them. They got their laws, and our God has his. They've went beyond measure concerning what they were supposed to do against our people, the children of Israel. And now judgment is coming. We're not to fear, but understand that these nations are now going to ramp up the tribulation. The more we know, and it's a shame, it's the truth, the more truth we understand, we as a people, as God's people, becomes a greater threat to its society. Because why? That society was built on us. And when you understand you weren't meant to serve, what's an empire without servants? It crumbles. So they're going to have to boast and embolden themselves with tribulation and with affliction like Pharaoh did. Moses tried to free our people. He says, listen, we need to put more work on them. Make bricks without straw. See? More oppression, more servitude, the empire stands. So tribulation leads to what? More incarceration. And now the system can stand because it was built on servitude. The more we begin to awaken the people and say, well, hold up, you're not a slave. You're not a servant. You're not a Canaanite. You're not a servant. You're not a Gentile. You're an Israelite. When you understand we weren't meant to serve other people, folks. And that's what they fear. We're waking people up, letting them know they're the children of Israel. And then they're looking at themselves as like, what are we to do for this empire without slaves? No slaves, no empire. Let's demonize and incarcerate them. We're bringing slavery back. We're going to make America great again. So what must we do? Let me go to 2nd Ezra 16 and 35. Second Ezra 16 and 35 reads, and this is our guide for us, the children of Israel. 2nd Ezra 16 and 35 reads, hear now these things, and understand them, ye servants of the Lord. Behold the word of the Lord, and receive it. Believe not the gods of whom the Lord spake. He's telling us, walk away from all these other ideologies and religions. Behold, the plagues draw near and are not slack, as when a woman with child in her 9th month bringeth forth her son. Within 2 to 3 hours of her birth, great pains compasseth the womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. So the child to be born is the free child of Israel. But just like a woman in pain, in labor, pains must constrict. They must heighten before the baby gives relief. So as we come close to that free baby, that free child of Israel being born, the government and the powers that be are going to ramp up more contractions against us. Okay, they're tightening the belt now. They're going to ramp up, demonize. It's just going to be almost in America. It's going to be unlawful to claim the Bible. It's going to be criminal to claim the Bible. It's almost here. Listen to this. "38. 39. Even so shall not the plagues be slack upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. O my people, hear my word. Make you ready to the battle." Now, this is talking about a spiritual battle, folks. Make you ready to the battle. And in those evils, be even as pilgrims upon the earth. A pilgrim is one who understands that they're not home. Like when the pilgrims came over from the Europe into the Americas, they left with what they had on their back. You must be like a pilgrim. Be ready to make wherever the Most High have you in this wilderness a temporal home. Be ready in the battle in those evils. Be even as pilgrims upon the earth. He that selleth, let it be as he that fleeth away. And he that buyeth as one that will lose. Understand, anything you have, one day you're going to have to walk away from it. Okay? Just thank the Most High for what you're able to enjoy today. But know one day that you have to walk away from all you've acquired. He that occupieth merchandise as he that have no profit by it, and he that buildeth as that shall not dwell therein. He that soweth as if he should not reap, and also he that planteth a vineyard as he that shall not gather the grapes. They that marry as they that shall get no children, and they that marry not as the widowers. For therefore they that labor in vain. For strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods and overthrow their houses and take their children captives. FEMA. For in captivity and famine shall they get children. And they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, the more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own persons. The more will I be angry with them for their sin, saith the Lord. Listen to this. I'm at 2nd Ezra 16 and 68. It's all good, but let me go to 67. Behold, the Most High himself, God himself is the judge. Fear him, leave off from your sins, and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall God lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble. So you want to know how to get out of this trouble? Let me read it again. He's giving you the clues here. God himself is the judge. He's allowing everything we're talking about to go down. Fear him, leave off from your sins, and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall God lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you. When it says the burning wrath of a great multitude, the examples is what I'm showing with these so-called politicians who are lobbying to destroy us through the Senate and Congress. That's that burning wrath of multitude. They're ready to pounce on our people. Okay, they're ready to utterly destroy Jerusalem like they once did. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision, and in reproach, and trodden under foot. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. Satan is sending his armies against the righteous, and that's what you're seeing politically right now with the demonization. With claiming that being an Israelite means you're a racist or you're killing people or and all that. This is the plan, because they have to first sway the sentiments of the population against their target, like they did during the times of Nero. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. See, at that time, we're going to know who was really down with the Most High. When it's a choice between your possessions or the mark of the beast. Your bank account or the mark of the beast. Because they're going to, listen, we're not taking your finances from you. We're not taking your money from you. You need the mark of the beast to access your belongings. Now, if you deny this, or we deem you a terrorist, or we deem you, and they can just write anyone, and they can just sign anyone in the law to be a terrorist today. If we deem you a terrorist, or whatever the case is, or someone anti-government, by default, the government can confiscate everything you have. And guess what, folks? That was written into the Patriot Act under George Bush. Okay? Now, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as a gold in the fire. Hear ye, O my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. He's going to save us. Not all of us, a remnant. If you're not under Christ, you will not be saved through this. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord God. Stay in my Bible, I'll direct you. Let not your sins weigh you down. Let me repeat that. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. Because what we do have is the sin of Adam, which is a part of our sinful DNA. And that will actually be within our quarters, within our bodies, until Christ comes and give us new ones. So we have to learn how to keep that spirit buffeted or in control. If not, that man will guide us wrong, will lead us off the path. Be not afraid, neither doubt, for God is your guide, and the God of them which keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities, which is your sin against God's law, lift up themselves. Woe, which is destruction. These are our people who's going to get caught up here. Woe be unto them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquities. Like as a field is covered over with bushes, and the path thereof covered with thorns, that no man may travel through. It is left undressed, and is cast unto the fire, to be consumed therewith. So the bottom line is, they're ramping up their campaign to put laws on the books to come against the awakening. We're living that right now. We're living it. So in order for us to be protected, we must be baptized for the remission of sins. Today, starting right now, we put down any evil thought or any sin we're living in right now. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. Come up under the hedge of the God of Israel and get directed from his son. Now, of course, what we're going to do, and we have a meeting with elders soon. We're going to have a meeting with elders where it's going to be within our church, spiritual preparation, as well as physical preparation for this time, a class that's implemented just within that church once a week. Spiritual and physical preparation, as a reminder, knowing the times of trouble we're now under. Okay? The first shot was just shot over the barrel, folks. When they use this guy and others, when they use this guy, brothers and sisters, and others, to claim Israelites was doing something when they know it was their own Shabbos goy, what they call cattle, their Shabbos goy, their cattle, when they raised this guy to be a terrorist. And now they're blaming him. They're using this to blame us. Okay? A Shabbos goy. They're using this to blame us. To blame, when I say us, I'm not talking about I'm talking about all of us. Because they're going to treat us like Israelites, whether we know we're Israelites or not, because they know we're Israelites. See, they don't care if you know you're an Israelite. They're still going to treat you like an Israelite. Okay. So they're going to use these stories, which is one of the first shots over the barrel, to politically sway public sentiments against the awakening altogether. And here we are. Then they have people like this, which are from their own synagogues, their own persuasion, to get in position politically now to put things on the books in which they're going to train police to treat brothers that out there teaching as a physical threat to military or law enforcement. That's where we are right now. And I'm going to say this, and listen, I'm going to tell you this. I don't have nothing personal against anyone or any so-called group or whatever the case is. I'm just here to do my ministry in Christ and what the Lord has showed me concerning his doctrine. Okay. And to continue this, not just in Babylon, from Babylon and beyond this place. All the way to the wilderness. And what I gotta say, if anything, for those brothers that are out there, it's time for you to change your approach. If you're gonna be out there teaching, you gotta be teaching with the wisdom of the Bible to understand the social climate, the environment you're in. Okay? If you're out there teaching, just teach the word. You don't have to address or hurt, because you don't have to demean or demonize somebody or have somebody bow to you, or you don't have to deal with none of that. So many of our people are hurting out there. Why don't you just use that knowledge, the understanding of history, to get our people out of this hole and have them repent for their sins, so that now these brothers and sisters you're running in on the street can now be utilized for Christ's kingdom. So we more so focusing on what the enemy is doing and not giving proper time to our people who are suffering like Christ did. So listen, I'm just one that have studied the book of Acts and have studied Christ's walk and have looked at history concerning our people. And the way brothers are doing it is incorrect, because they're using it's like they're using evil rhetoric and racial rhetoric and making that a doctrine within itself. And it's actually, weighing down the true reason, the true purpose for this awakening. So that's all I have to say there. The political saga against the children of Israel begins. Now the question is now, what will you do? What will you do? Well, I say, be baptized for the remission of sins, according to Christ's doctrine, put off your sins, and walk in newness of life. And join, that's why we call this the gathering of Christ's church, so that we can gather the elect to the elect, to walk in one like mind, to baptize and to teach the good news, the gospels, to the Jews first and also to the Gentiles, to direct the Gentiles correctly, because they have been lied to. They have also been derailed by the Gentile satanic ideologies. They have lost their way from our father Noah on Noah's Ark. Ham, Shem, and Japheth have lost his way. So through this doctrine, we hope to warn our people, to bring them up under the hedge, but also to tell the Gentiles, listen, you're not our enemy. The gods you serve are our enemy. The gods you serve, the fallen gods, starting with that worm Lucifer, he's our enemy. So Christ have given us an unction, given us a word, given us a ministry to say, well, listen, it's not about hating any nation, because Ham, Shem, and Japheth was on that ark. But we're set in the proper order. You've been taught wrong by the wrong people. Come in and learn the true gospel under the true children of God, who we are. And learn the righteous path. For those who can't get to a church now, or whatever the case is, that's fine. You have a Bible. Get yourself a King James Version Bible and an Apocrypha, and begin to read. You want to know where to start? Good. Start with our people being oppressed in Egypt. Start in Exodus, the first chapter. That's an easy place to start. And look at what we went through under Egyptian rule, and how our God saved us through that Red Sea, the Reed Sea. And look at the disobedience that happened even after our God saved us, where our people began to revolt and fight against one another within the wilderness, which led to a judgment. Also look at how the Most High destroyed the Canaanites, the Amorites, the same nations, the same Canaanite, Nephilim nations that Esau ended up aligning himself with. And how the Most High destroyed them in Jericho and gave us the land Israel. Start there. And make sure you go into Deuteronomy and read those laws, Leviticus and read those laws, so that now you can measure this life and your lifestyle and measure that with the righteous laws so that you can begin to examine where you're going off concerning the God who made us. The things that you didn't even know is sin, that you didn't even know was wrong. You begin to measure with that law and realize that you were born under sin and learn to defy the God that made you. Start with that law. Deuteronomy. Go into Exodus. Find out about yourself. This Bible is your history. And then, now you use that righteousness for the embetterment of this world. But first with your people. To the Jews first, and then we teach the Gentiles what's right. We're going to teach them what's right. Leave Buddhists, leave Catholicism, leave that. Give them the knowledge show them the Babylonian origin of their religions, because they don't know it's Babylonian. They're just following the traditions of their fathers, their current modern fathers. They don't know it's Babylonian. Show them the origin of the Tower of Babel, where all the Gentile religions began. And say, well, listen, come through the straight gate. Christ have now made a path for all of us. You've just been listening to the wrong people. See, the Gentiles are just more so role players. They follow who's ever in power. But right now, the Most High have made what? A shift in the paradigm. The power of the Roman Empire in Esau is falling. And at the same time, Jacob's rising. So with that, I'm going to say shalom, brothers and sisters. Another thing I like to let you all just put out a prayer for the family, our leadership structure, the Bishop Lakwama and his wife Shakana over there in Houston, and pray and lift them up in prayer. They lost a son, and our prayers go out to them, and may the Most High give them comfort at this time. And make sure you all put your prayers out for that family, because, it's rough to lose a loved one, let alone a son. So, and, it's continually on my mind. And make sure you all put out prayers for our Houston family. But with that, I went well beyond my time. I want to say, brothers and sisters, again, I'm going to continue this tomorrow in the Hebrew and Bible Academy. With the split between Israel and Judah. You don't want to miss what we're teaching tomorrow. I'm telling you, we never taught it from this vantage point ever before. And we're going to also go into the liar Joseph Smith and his satanic Book of Mormons to show you the deception in there. Not to follow. If someone tell you to follow the Book of Mormons, that right off, if our people tell you, something is wrong with them, they haven't done the research concerning how that book was compiled. Be very careful when people are out there telling you to follow the Book of Mormon, folks. That book was constructed for straight satanic destruction against our people. And the unlearned now are coming up. And let me tell you, be careful when you see someone else on YouTube or another social network. Be careful when you see them using our name, GOCC, or speaking sideways, bringing their own doctrine, but yet trying to give us credit so they can build themselves on a work that have nothing to do with them. Be very, very careful. Because if they say, GOCC, they dropping a lot of information, then you ask, well, why aren't you with them? That's what you should be asking. Don't try to sideways compliment something to build yourself on work that have nothing to do with you by invoking our names to make people believe that you're really with us. If you were with us, you would be with us. So don't ever fall for that stuff. Oh yeah, GOCC, I follow them all the time. Don't fall for that, folks. The Bible teaches us about people like that. It teaches you about people like that. And I'm going to go into that soon. How people would try to name drop or try to use someone else's work to uplift themselves, knowing that they really have an evil eye against the work altogether. A serpent. Okay? All right. All right. All right. Okay, someone asked, what was the name of that guy that had a $250,000 bounty on his head? Let me get it for you. Let me get it for you here. One second here. His name escapes me, but I have it here. Gabriel Prosser. Gabriel Prosser. Prosser. Gabriel Prosser had a $250,000 reward on his head. He knew he was an Israelite. He knew he was Israel. As a matter of fact, all the pastors at this particular time were teaching that we were Israelites because we knew that coming off of the slave ships. It wasn't until this new brand of Christianity under Rome that we began to believe this nonsense that black people are from the cursed seed of Cain. All right. All right. I have a few things that I must do. Going into the Sabbath, sun will be down soon. May the Most High be with you. Pray not. Make sure you stay prayed up, and sin not. Stay prayed up, sin not. You don't want to miss the academy, the split between Israel and Judah tomorrow. We'll see you there. If you want to be a part of it, send an email to historygatheringas1@aol.com. Or you can enroll by going to historytimes.org. historytimes.org and gatheringofchrist.org. Shalom. Love you. Thank you for your strength, your prayer. And folks, be very careful with people who are sideways commending the Gathering of Christ Church, but operating as a stray bull alone. Christ and the disciples didn't operate like that. Okay? Stay prayed up, sin not, we'll soon see Zion. Shalom.
The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding and hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited.